here today with Ruth Ann Mitchell, associated with the Studios on High Gallery located in Columbus, Ohio. And we really appreciate Ruth Ann taking the time to visit with us today. Ruth Ann, how are you today?
I'm great.
You told me in your original career that you worked as a draftsman.
That's right.
At some point you decided that a little more artistic approach was of interest to you. How did you get started in art, Ruth Ann?
We moved from Columbus down to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I had sold real estate. I wasn't real interested in going back to work because I knew we were going to be traveling and such. So I thought, all right, what am I going to do? And I thought I wanted to paint furniture. That was really popular at the time. And I thought, well, maybe I can find a class to show me what I need to do. Well, I couldn't find one, but I found a class that was through the Parks and Recreation Department in Chattanooga, and it was a beginning watercolor class. So anyway, I started in that class, and it was kind of an interesting experience. The instructor was a wonderful painter. She usually did teach people with more experience rather than beginners. And so she one day told me, well, you bring in a picture out of a magazine. And so I did, and I came back the next week, and I'm working on that picture, and I think, oh, things seem to be going okay. And she comes over and she goes, oh my. I thought, well, too bad. I'm having a good time, so I'm just not going to pay any attention to you.
One observation I'll make is my experience with watercolors and straight edges and triangles is they are the opposite ends of the spectrum. Watercolor wants to flow everywhere, and of course drafting is a very precise science. So did you like that free form?
I did. I liked it very much, but it was difficult to make that transition. And eventually down the road, I took some classes in abstract painting to get over that, specifically to get past that.
And at some point, you decided to go into a different media. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, actually that happened because as a result of that class, a group of us stayed together and painted after that, and they were very, very instrumental in my progress in painting and drawing. And one of the gals taking a class at the community college. So I went there, and it was an oil painting class. It was a basic beginning oil painting class. So I invested in oils at that point. Started working with oils, really liked those, but they didn't dry fast enough for me. I was too impatient for them to let them dry. So I went to acrylics after that, and that's what I paint in predominantly now.
So now you've gotten yourself more interested in abstract work.
Right.
And what are you using for inspiration or motivation?
A number of things. My abstract art started off driving back and forth between Columbus and Chattanooga, and took my impressions of what I saw traveling. The cornfields, the barns, the mountains, the streams, just the way the highway was cut through the mountains, and things just ripped apart and then grown back together. I used all that and came up with what I call a fertile field, and so I had a whole series on fertile fields. And for me, the inspiration was all these travels.
So you're back now in Columbus. How is your art start to evolve at that point?
Now I'm actually working with a group, and we go out and paint, or we paint outside and paint, or we paint inside. And one of the fellows in that group is a very, very accomplished painter, and he's been showing us how to go to abstracts, starting with the still life, and then working on that, starting off as somewhat realistic and then totally abstracting it. And so that's been a new source of inspiration.
You did a series of paintings which seem somewhat to draw upon your draftsman experience. They're graphical, they're straight lines and circles.
Right.
Can you comment on what motivated you to do that series of paintings?
Sure. That series I call the Moon series, and it came about because I was taking a class down at the Cultural Arts Center, and it was a class on color. So for that class, we were supposed to have done a drawing to paint, and I had forgotten to do my homework, and so we're sitting in this old armory building, and it has some really unique windows and wall shapes. And so I sat there drawing the lines much as I would as if I were a draftsman, and drawing those lines to recreate that. But when it's on a flat piece of paper, you really can't tell that those are curves and things like that. And so it had the windows in it, it had the wall curves, and then I decided to add the moon to it.
Ruth Ann, there is another series of paintings that you have done that I find rather striking. They're much more realism, less abstract. They seem to be of animals and children, and very dramatic paintings. Tell me a little bit about those. What do you call them, and tell me a little bit about them.
Those are done on a grid system, so I call them grid paintings. I've done some children, I've done a woman in one, and actually the woman was the first one I ever did, and then I've done a lot of animals. You would paint a dark circle on top of that dark square in a different color. Maybe it was a dark green and now you have a dark blue. And you would continue to do that with different shapes in each one of those squares, but in that same value. And end up, when you walk back from it, you have this fabulous animal or you have this fabulous person. When you're up close, you just see colors and odd shapes, and so it has a very different look to it.
Eventually you became associated with the Studios on High, a gallery in downtown Columbus.
Right.
And how did you find out about them, and how did you become associated with them?
Okay. After we moved back, a lot of people told me to go to the Cultural Arts Center. It's a fabulous arts center, and so I signed up for a painting class and also for a life drawing class. And the sessions run to 8 weeks, and at the end of the session we would have basically a critique. We would present our work and other people would make comments about it. Well, in that session there was a woman named Marty Hustis, and she was a member of Studios on High Gallery, and suddenly I got an email from her and she said, "We have an opening at Studios on High, would you be interested?" And I was very flattered that that happened. The Studios on High started off with 4 women basically who wanted some space where they could work and actually have their galleries, and they could sell out of their gallery space then. At that point in time, the rent was very inexpensive, so it was a really good place for them to be. As the area changed, it became more gentrified and more upscale, and so they started bringing in more people into the gallery.
How many artists are associated with Studios on High now?
We have 18 artists. We all are from Central Ohio. When we go to the gallery, because of our history, we actually work on pieces while we're there, do demonstrations. That's part of our mission in the gallery, is to kind of help educate people, showing them what we do.
Columbus is of course known as a football town, home of Ohio State University, the mighty Buckeyes, but there also seems to be somewhat of an art scene also. Do you want to comment on, on art in Columbus?
Sure. The Cultural Arts Center, which I mentioned before, is just a fabulous place. Columbus College of Art and Design is a wonderful art school. Of course, Ohio State has a great art department. Actually, Otterbein does too. So there are lots of really good art departments, lots of really good instructors as well, lots of art leagues, and they offer all kinds of classes around town. They offer great programming. It's been really surprising. Columbus is the 15th largest city in the U.S., and the Short North is known for being an art district. You know, we've been written up in the New York Times. We get people come from all over the country just to come to Gallery Hop.
Well, Ruth Ann, it's been interesting talking to you. Your work is certainly inspiring.
Well, thank you.
I want to thank you for your time and giving us this opportunity to chat with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.